You're listening to The Good Pod Guide, where I, journalist and podcast fangirl Lauren Windle, bring you the lowdown on the pods you should be listening to. I really hope that one day someone hires me to be on a women's chat show, partly because I get lonely just talking to myself, and partly because I think it would be fun. And I would be happy with a women's chat podcast for sure. But if I'm honest, I've got my sights set on Loose Women. And I think Loose Women looks like a really fun environment to work in. And I'd like to be at their Christmas party. This is an aspiration that I shared with Stacey Solomon when I worked with her when she was a columnist at Fabulous magazine and I was one of their journalists. And, you know, she was really encouraging of me and my dreams, which is a very Stacey thing to do because I don't think I've ever met anyone who is genuinely so kind. And there's a part of me that thinks it can't be real because she's like literally so nice. But yeah, and the last time I saw her, she said, "Oh, well, I'll see you when you're on Loose." And I just thought that's got to be a promise of some sort, you know? Like, that's the kind of positive affirmations we should all just be speaking in. So hopefully that'll be me soon. If you are listening, casting directors of ITV, hit me up. You know where I am. Website, laurenwindle.com. There's a comments box which comes through to me. Anyway, speaking of women's chat and research and discussion and investigation, I am talking about the Stance podcast today, which has got to be one of the best examples of this kind of conversation, this kind of podcast that I found. This is a monthly magazine style show tackling identity, culture, and politics. The show features interviews with all kinds of experts, from artists to choreographers to filmmakers to writers. Topics that they cover include things like being Black in a time of coronavirus, Manchester's LGBTQ plus story, the class ceiling in the arts. I love that. I love a good pun. The class ceiling in the arts. Can you see what they did there? Modern Mumbai, and one that we're going to talk about in a bit, the female prison experience. It's hosted by New York-based Londoner Crystal Genesis, who is a presenter and an arts and culture consultant. She clearly really knows her stuff. I loved the episode where they featured a woman who researched the design of nightclubs. How flipping cool is that? And how they're designed to allow people to express themselves freely. And then she actually said that often the sort of going down of the stairs to a basement of some sort, you know, and that kind of thing can be contrary to that freedom, flowy nightclub vibe that people are going for. Even though I have to say the nightclubs that I've been to are often not trying to allow you to express yourself freely. There's usually some form of clipboard bitch that sends you packing if you've tried to be too free with your expression, particularly through your appearance. But maybe that's just central London. I got really into the episode on female prison experience in the US and the UK. I thought it was excellent. They discussed the trauma of the experience, but tackled key issues in the prison system for women of colour, and also look at trans women who've often felt dehumanised by the federal government. One fact that Crystal flagged up, which really shocked me, was this. So according to the Equality and Human Rights Committee, relative to the population, we, as in the UK, have more Black people inside prisons than they do in the United States. The fact that we're leading against the US is shocking. Theresa May even mentioned that being Black is met by harsher treatment in the criminal justice system. In other words, if you're Black, you're more likely to be given a harsher sentence than if you're not. It's just packed full of important insights like that will really get you thinking and that I think bring the conversation on. I think there's a real assumption that the UK is a step ahead of the US, and actually that just flags up that that's not the case at all. Those episodes are great and they are worth checking out, but actually, given that it covers current affairs, if you like the sound of it, you may want to just start with the most recent episode and follow on from there. If you do dip back though, there are 50 or so in the back catalogue and they're around an hour each. And they do cover really interesting topics. It's great. It's intelligent. It leads conversations. It doesn't just feel like a sort of silly women's magazine, you know, take a Cosmo quiz kind of vibe. It's really intelligent. It really incites incites thoughtfulness and encourages people to think for themselves. It's a sort of podcast that I would listen to just so that I could bring up some of their topics at a dinner party and sound really informed and clever and like I'm ahead of the game. I highly recommend it. In the next episode, we address the sadness and pain of loss as we review the podcast Griefcast. You can get more info on the show online at www.goodpodguide.com and follow us at Good Pod Guide on Instagram and Twitter.